And this is Laura Poirot. I thought I would do a video based on, I guess it's now coming to the point of drawing a little more clarity with some things, some statements, some questions that people still have roaming around. And I'm sure these seem to be, I spot a pattern of these kind of general comments and questions still. So I thought of doing a video of a Q&A in a way of just addressing three key points that people keep discussing or bringing up now that we have through my videos lately of the courtier's Megxit. There's another one about Megxit that's in red and white, and then there's just so many at this point. And then my last one called Endgame. You can now establish the why as to why this strategy has been played out. It's to create a dual identity of the new monarchy, the new globalist monarchy of both traditionalism and modernism. And there's been a play of, well, I could explain here because I've addressed it. If you ever want to have questions, usually I read my comments, and I also read social media comments on Twitter, and I usually then screenshot and respond through here, or vice versa, or I then repeat it here if I respond through Twitter. And it's usually on the community page here. So if you're ever, I would really suggest, if you're up for this kind of thing, I don't just do videos. I also use my community page almost like a journal or as a community page, really, to discuss things with my YouTube community and to keep this discourse open. And if anyone has questions, or if anyone wants their input to be considered, because, I always don't consider a lot of input, or I'm trying so much to get a point across that in a way, I try to limit or narrow a lot of considerations, a lot of factors, because it makes it easier. It makes it like an easier pill to swallow, if you know what I mean. Less information to absorb. But there are many, many things to discuss and many things to consider. For example, I think it was Gory, a fellow Australian, on my last video, she suggested, the fact that Britain is having influences all over Europe, especially in Arabic countries, regarding oil and whatsoever, and all these things, especially Azerbaijan and British Petroleum over there. They pretty much monopolize and their whole oil industry is over there, and there's a lot of questions regarding that sort of activity. There's also, BRICS, which is a commodities-based investment into these countries where all City of London companies, I'm sure that the British royal family have their little hands in, they operate all of their resources, like their mining, in these countries. And that's why you have BRICS. That's why you have our developed countries raising them up and being outsourced and offshored, or having, China and Australia, for example, running a lot of companies, taking over a lot of real estate through FDI, foreign direct investment. It's because that's been an investment strategy to raise up. So then the rates of return for these companies, and also for the City of London investors in China, when they develop China and raise it to what it is, the rate of return will just always, not just China, but all these BRICS countries will always increase because of GDP, because of trade. So they're pretty much just completely owning these economies. So that's a lot to consider as well. I have done a video on BRICS, but I haven't really done a video on Israel or the Suez Canal trade and takeover. I have done it in the terrorism video I've done, just very in a small way, regarding the British royal family or the British Empire at the time, and how they fundamentally created terrorism through the first terrorism organization in Egypt, around the time when they took over the control over the Suez Canal, and then not long after, Israel was formed, and then they followed suit with the terrorism organizations over there. Israel then created Hamas, and it goes on and on and on. So there's just many, many things. This is a really intense topic. I think more than what a lot of people assume or think it is. And that's why it takes time to kind of unfold these things bit by bit and then extend on these topics. So I really appreciate your input. I really appreciate your questions. So at this point, we've got this why, this strategy of this dual identity of modernism and traditionalism. And traditionalism, namely through the monarchy, the family that stayed in the UK, PR-wise, of course. And then you've got Todge and Nut, who are meant to invite the new modernism of the British royal family, and now you've got the heir doing Earthshot and so forth. But these all were like plans and strategies put forth together. They weren't just like a waterfall effect or a domino effect. They weren't like one after the other, like one was subsequent of the other. There wasn't a cause and effect situation happening. This was all planned in tandem with one another. So Earthshot and Travelist, Megxit, and the heir's new foreign visits and new foreign global statesman position, and Todge's global advocate position were all a part of the Megxit plan done by the Queen's private secretary and all these things. So yeah, I get the question all the time of, is it all of the family? Is it all of them? Do they all know? Yes, they all know. They have had to be a part of it for you to be convinced. Yeah. There's just no... I've gone through the Oprah interview. The Oprah interview was done very, very early on, before Nut was even pregnant, supposedly with her second child or third child, long before. So she put on a baby bump. And this whole thing has been a charade. And so then the order of things then is questionable, and it's just all an orchestration. I've done videos of Katie Nicholl talking about the whole agenda behind the Oprah interview by the British royal family, and how it was just to really emphasize the race card and to really trigger the emotional dangling of the carrot when it comes to the duo. You're meant to trivialize and dismiss their illegal activity and treason while they still do it, and you're meant to give it no credit, and you're not meant to give it any seriousness, and you're not meant to consider it as something of importance or significance, which still lets them successfully accomplish their goals. And then you've got and the emotional side is the dangling carrot to distract you while you're dismissing and trivializing their actions, their real actions, their true actions behind the mask of is like, oh, we're stupid fucking idiots who are selfish and are stupid idiots and are sorry, I've just lost my train of thought, and you know, abusing privileges and so forth. You can't abuse privileges that are, sorry, I've got a froggy throat, a frog in my throat. You can't abuse privileges that are just willingly given to you and are not ever revoked. It's just, you've got to then ask why that's happening. So that's been the whole intention of that sidetracking, bringing in modernism of the royal family, but also trivializing and dismissing that illegal activity on that side. So a lot's been able to pass through their shell charity. A lot's been able to pass through their commercial endeavours and so forth. A lot of activity that should be questioned. And then you've got the opposite of that, through the glorification and exaggeration of the heir and his wife's work, because that's for the good of the people, and that's because, you know, he is perfect, unflawed. So you've got the flawed son, then you've got the flawless son, and the flawless son is just so protected, and the media branding is so controlled. You can see in my last video how not even his wife is protected like the way he is. They pretty much said in the production blurbs of these production movies that, you know, both Nut and Catherine are agents of the Crown, and they were dedicated to the Crown's work and have been since the get-go. And 2023, mind you. But when it came to the blurb of the heir, it was that he was dedicated to Britain and the British people. So it's very, very controlled, very steered. Nothing is to be tarnished or negatively impacted when it comes to the heir and his campaign. So you've got the glorification there. The dangling carrot for that couple is just continuous, since his mother, continuous and lifelong victimizing, and also being a savior. And the savior is usually through idolizing them, adulating them, always through means of being selfless, of representing the best of our core values of humanity. It's so, when you really think about it and you think about real life, no one is like that. And yet you put these people on a pedestal because they're also not meant to be considered like anyone else. They're unreachable. They're elitists. They're born in a palace. They should be like that. They should be different, and they should be classed differently. Do you see how much you've been brainwashed? You justify everything, even though it's not real life. So there's that. I think this is why I wanted to bring this up. So that's the first point. So I've said it here because there's somebody said in a post on a comment regarding, in response to my endgame video, global humanitarian asked the backer people, this loser is an utter disgrace. And I said, despite your PR influence opinion about the strategy's success, he still works with CIA, Aspen, UN, etc. No? The socially engineered response trivializes his globalist stance and questionable activities, so you dismiss it willingly. Success. Because really that is the success of it. it brings us to the point where you can't say, well, the why, the strategy that's been played out doesn't align with just how bad they've behaved. That's not true at all. I'm telling you this, I'm showing you this is how it's been successful and how it's been operated and worked. And it's been very, very effective. You've trivialized everything. You've dismissed everything. It's continuing to be allowed. This whole positioning has continued to be allowed. And what are you going to do? Literally, what are you going to do when the flawless, perfect son and father forgive Todge and bring him back into the fold? Will you go, oh, that's good? Will you go and you'll get justice over Nut being disregarded and discarded? Or will she come back? Either way, what are you going to do? You have no control over the narrative anymore. You have no, they've completely rid you of any self-empowerment and self-autonomy regarding this whole narrative. You're just emotionally reacting to things. And once that's taken away from you, what then? That's all you've got. And you're going to allow what's actually taken place. That's the point of it. And that's why I think that's really what I'm trying to say here. I've got a huge comment about it. Yeah, and the PR crafted wrongdoings will fade to dust, rebranding will begin, and the illegal activity was a great success. Untouched, unscathed, unbreakable. Like the heirs and the spares unbreakable bond that was publicly disclosed in a whole documentary done by them in 2023. No bond has been broken. This is all PR. And you keep telling me that their behavior doesn't align with the strategy. Their behavior is the strategy. So know that. So that's the first point. Now, I guess the second point as well is I don't ever really disclose, in a sense, although it's meant to be a given, I don't disclose the power and the control that the monarchy has over the world. And I try to imply it with what I prove, but I usually tend to focus more on just proving a point or proving just a facet of this whole con, or the immensity of the power and control they do have. For example, I did a video about Wallace 2.0, about Edward. When Edward, this Wallace 2.0 is literally the first play out of a psyop when Edward was a Nazi sympathizer and committed very high treason, and I think at that point it was still punishable by death. That's why it was such a big deal. And of course, Queen Elizabeth, soon, well, pretty much just, not, I wouldn't say just before, but before all of this has taken place in 2016, obviously before that, she made the treason punishment, high treason punishment, only life imprisonment. And of course, these people are so protected. There's so much power and control that they are bulletproof. They will never see life imprisonment. They will never see any punishment whatsoever regarding high treason. It will be controlled and it will be hidden. And even when I speak about it, it will be controlled enough where they will, it will be allowed, like telling all of the political parties in Australia there was treason committed. Do you see them crying out to the Governor General of Australia, which, is the correspondent to the King? Do you see all of that, some sort of riots or some sort of like outcry? No. But there's the power and control just in general is really, really big. And you can talk about the last example with, in terms of just that whole production sham, having about 190 films from 2022 to 2023, mostly, by two production companies owned by what seems to be a non-existent person or a shell. It's all shell operations, and they have the same address, they have the same officer, and the other officer is a person that's dead, that's been dead for 20 years now, that keeps having companies registered under her name, shell companies registered under her name. And the security company that is meant to be independent, that has all the bodyguards of Nut and Todge, are set up with her name as well and have the same shell operations. So then there was never really any independent security. So there's also a video on that I've done. So yeah, it's that video there. When you actually think about those actual documentaries. Did you ever know about those documentaries before I pointed them out, or before Libby pointed them out on Twitter? I had no idea that they existed. I think Unforgiven, I think that's a book, or that may have been a documentary that I knew of. But that's it. Didn't have any impact on me whatsoever. I never watched any of these documentaries. I never considered them. No one ever brought them up and said, hey, you should watch this. I had no idea. I only knew about the movie, which was, oh my God, embarrassing. The two movies about the fake narrative. And then just lately, through Libby's work, the first mockumentary that was done with Katie Nicholl, Camilla Tomani, and Robert Jobson, those fake royal experts that are instructed to just put through a narrative. And then also the books of like Lady C and Tom Bower that were also just a spew of whatever narrative they were instructed to portray at the time. Oh, and Andrew Morton. And what is the other one? It's like Valentine or something, or I don't know. He was around. He came around around the Oprah interview with the book or something like that. So you've got these like unknown documentaries and these shell, and all for a means to just re-narrate whatever psyop they want to portray and strategy they want to exercise regarding this whole manipulation and deception. And Squid from Twitter, she's just amazing. She's just got an amazing brain. And I think maybe I'm biased because I feel like we're on the same wavelength, but she responded with this regarding the Endgame video. And she said the amount of manpower they have creating these bullshit films is extraordinary. It's their own little micro mini Hollywood studios. A perfect example of how very important these people feel it is to manage our perceptions 24/7. And it's just, that was just perfect. That was a perfect kind of conclusion of the end game. That really shows the power and control they have. I think with I never actually finished my sentence regarding the Edward Wallace 2.0 narcissist sympathizer story. I'm so sorry, I've just realized. The reason as to why I brought that up was because when that all went down, and when he was literally in Germany and then overseas within Europe, refusing to come home, if that's true or not, sympathizing with and colluding with Mussolini and Hitler, and wanting to overthrow. Was it overthrow the king? I mean, why would he need to? Anyway, wanting Wallace to be queen. Oh, who knows? Who knows if that's made up or not? But when he was doing all of this, and he did it for years, the monarchy controlled the entire media. This is in 1940s, 1930s. Controlled the entire British media. The royal family. They controlled the entire British media so that no one would know a thing about what Edward was doing. They controlled the entire activity and reputation and mitigated it all. And only in 1990 did this information start coming out. It was not, unless it was intentionally leaked by then, it was never really meant to come out. That's the control they have. And that was in the 1930s, 1940s, right? And at that time, they said that they couldn't really control the American media at the time, which is funny when they say at the time, because that kind of tells you that they can control it now, which they can, and they do. And they have everywhere across the entire world. That's why you have this narrative playing out, convincing you that it's the truth. And then you have this situation where you have this fake production studio being able to exaggerate these and retell these narratives to fool you and to deceive you and to make you believe certain things and make you feel certain things and keep you distracted and compliant. And that, to me, is nothing. In a way, this studio and the impact that these documentaries have actually had is so little in comparison to the media control of this narrative, compared to the Netflix documentary, compared to the Oprah interview, compared to the royal tours that were offered by governments of the duo, compared to the whole psyop. It's been over 6 years, 8 years. 8 years of this. And the level of control and power you need to pull this off in the world is amazing. And I think it's really important that you consider that it's really it's huge. And that's when you should start to consider, how much power do they really have over our nations, over our governments, over certain elements of our governance, like in America, the CFR and the CIA. And I mean, the fact that Harry could just become a board member of CIA Aspen, that's US government backed, is phenomenal. The fact that he could just literally supposedly move to the US, which I don't believe he did ever, and straight off the bat become a board member of Aspen, and then tell everyone comfortably that the First Amendment is bonkers, and then proceeded to talk about how he had insider intelligence information about J6 and warned the CEO of Twitter. He thinks he's above Twitter and has this intelligence information to share. That is phenomenal. And the fact that he paid, I don't know, we say he, but it's the monarchy, but he paid through his Shell charity. One of the, he's not a young world leader, but a WEF member that's really, really big, that's high up, called Jeremy Hymans, that has all these social campaign companies like Avars, Purpose, and he's connected to, is that Illuminate, and many other, Capgemini in France, and all these really big corporations that have then created a Shell research agency in Australia called Reset Australia and infiltrated government. And the government allows this to happen because it has been reported to them multiple occasions. And there have been researchers before me outing the interference of this agency, right? They've allowed that. He's been able to do that comfortably. And all of this has been able to happen comfortably. And then they announce he's a successful global advocate. He's transitioned. And he continues to then do speeches at the UN and everything else. And that's all good, isn't it? That's fine. Because it's trivialized and it's dismissed. But the power and control that over UN, over World Vision, over WEF, over WHO, and there's a large global organizations that you thought ruled COVID and ruled all of our nations and continents during these, for example, the pandemic. And these people can just breeze through there. You've got to really consider the control and power that they hold. That's the second point. And I think the third point is a lot of people ask, what can we do about it? We're helpless. This isn't something we can fix. It's just something we can witness. And a lot of people have also said, there's no point or it's either it's good that we know this now, but let's just close it up because there's nothing we can do about it. Or it's, well, what's the point of discussing this if there's nothing we can do about it? And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are genuine. Some people may not be. But there's, I think this also needs to be addressed just in general. I think it's really important because I think that's the whole reason as to why I've done this channel and I've committed to bringing you this content despite what I've dealt with and had to experience since I have been here. Now, I'm going to tell you just again, this is probably like the 700th time I've told you, but I think it's important, especially when there's new people looking at my content and maybe not understanding that I'm not new to the community. I've been here a while, and I think it's important to just be honest and transparent. That's really what I try to promote in with social media and also YouTube. So I think I'll just retell my story a bit. So I'm going to go here. Sometimes I can't multitask. So I started out last year and I didn't really want to do a YouTube channel. I didn't like the idea of being so artificial and genuine and shallow when having to present myself on on a video channel. I knew how to do it. I know how to do business very well, but I just didn't feel comfortable with having to go by a script or having to look in the mirror and then do the editing and then do all of this. I just thought, oh, like it's just too much work. I'm very practical, very direct with my stuff. So with just life in general. So I just thought, oh, like that's a lot of work just to go into having to tell you the honest truth and trying to get that out. And I really wanted to do a book publication or a not a Netflix series, obviously not Netflix, but a series that would oppose the Netflix series, debunking everything that's been sold to us. And at that time, I actually still thought Nut was, a bitch, an evil bitch, and I was trying to defend the monarchy in every way. But I knew also that they had something to do with what was happening, because as I kept researching, I kept finding discrepancies, and that, for example, the security narrative story wasn't real, the abuse and harassment wasn't real, the suicidal situation definitely wasn't real. And I kept coming up, being confronted by the artificial nature of not just Nut, but this entire storyline. And then on top of it, you had like stuff like Ngozi Fulani, Michael of Kent, Lady Hussey, all that stuff. You've got all of that going. And the statement that he put out when all of this stuff came out, you've got like Nut saying over and over again, she doesn't do social media, she doesn't do Twitter, no, that's horrific, no, not for her. But then you've got like saying that social media accounts have been attacking them over racism and sexism, and she's a victim and she's suffered. Like, there's certain things that just don't make sense. You can say that she's a liar, but that doesn't really make any sense either. Like, because she may not be even involved in any of this narrative, and it's just a narrative that's been told, and you've got to look at ulterior motives. Anyway, and when I was, I knew the origins of how she was built. I knew the origins back in Canada of how she was built. I thought, though, that their relationship was still genuine and had started back a lot earlier, and somehow miraculously it was just hidden for no reason whatsoever, but hidden for a while until they were ready to publicly release it. And I really wanted to do, as I said, a series in America, and get like all the YouTube community involved, or a book. And I contacted publication lawyers in Australia, and it was really weird, because this sort of experience I was getting was with the lawyers was, it's amazing. Like, it's really exciting that, like, good luck with it. It would be fantastic, but we're not going to touch it. And it was weird for me, because I'm pretty good with the law, and I know lawyers. I don't know publication lawyers, but that sort of response was like weird, because they were very enthusiastic about it. They were very happy about it, but straight off the bat, it was a no, and a very clear no. And so I knew that I wouldn't be able, unless I published my own book, to write and publish a book. I was like, by the time I do that, it's going to take too much time, and, time is of the essence. And then I tried to contact certain YouTubers who have now blocked me for no reason whatsoever. Certain YouTubers who, to try to get my work out, and to try to get, most of all, a series going in the US. And I really wanted to do that and I wanted it to be a community project rather than doing any of this YouTube stuff. Really didn't want to do it. And the responses I got, some are a little more believable from the YouTube community. But mostly I was pushed back or silenced, and the information was suppressed, but to the point where I had one, especially one that I really trusted, ask me, so, what do you know? And I just thought that obviously I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to share that information if you're not going to help me and you're fiddling around trying to get around what I know, and having that information and then not do anything about it and just suppress and control. So it was weird. It was really, really weird. It wasn't what I expected from the YouTube community whatsoever. I was excited. I expected this support because they were all about the truth. They were all about telling the truth about all of this. And I was puzzled and frustrated as to why they were still confused by, not doing all of these things and being so harmful, and Todge being so harmful. And I'm like, bitch, I know why. Like, give me a platform and I'll fucking tell you, And I thought they'd be like just so excited to hear that. And that's all they really wanted to, that was their endeavor. That's all they really wanted to find out too. And then it just got weirder and weirder from there. Within months, I had just people supporting me, other YouTubers supporting me, and then at the drop of a hat, literally just not talking to me, like even in mid-conversation or arranging to have a discussion, maybe a video together. Literally, they would just stop communicating with me. Or you would have situations where there was an account like Twitter account like Skate Like a Girl, who actually created the Sussex baby scam hashtag, and she wanted to get out through to Andrew Gold. She wanted to get out like proof, because he said, well, I'm not going to do a video of the disproving proving that the pregnancies, the pregnancies were fabricated and not real. I'm not going to do a video if there's no proof. And so she was like, right, I'll create this hashtag and this campaign, and I'm going to get, and I'm going to ask the Twitter, the social media community, who's the best people let's all collaborate and get kind of like some sort of, not document, but content out there for Andrew to say, yeah, this is the proof we have. When will you take us on? And when will this be publicly discussed and aired? And I, considering my experience, I was suspicious. I'm always suspicious with certain accounts until they, prove otherwise or are consistent with what they do. But at that time, Andrew Gold hadn't really covered anything about the royal family. So I just thought, oh yeah, like, okay, let's see what happens. And I didn't know at the time, but I was referred to through my handle, mentioned a number of times under that post by Skate Like a Girl to, Laura would be good for the job. And so I did some videos, and I also showed older videos and really just brought it home about the whole debunking of the pregnancies, and the fabrications around it, and just how the consistent inconsistencies and the lies, and just proving the whole surreal circumstances surrounding the pregnancies, and also the miscarriage. So that was presented, and then nothing was done anyway. And then I've seen his work, Andrew's work on Nut and Toj since, and I just know that he's a controlled account. He's also ex-BBC, so I was like, and then I knew. And I realized just more and more just how big the suppression of truth really, really was. And I was bitter because I was also getting harassed online because I was angry that nothing was being done, and I was trying desperately to have these chats. You know, soon after we had Megan's Mole go on Popcorn Planet and talk about the hashtag Sussex baby scam, and that she was going to debunk all and represent the community. And she just showed images of these moon bumps, and it just seemed very socially steered, very engineered, very controlled, very like with the intention of trivializing and suppressing this entire narrative. And that's what it seems to have been played out through almost every account. And then after that, you know, I start getting blocked by these accounts, and I'm just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, because I'm speaking out about this bullshit, like, what's going on? And I just realized more and more just how bad this was. And then, you know, it came September or November last year, and that was when the bomb exploded within the narrative. When I really found out just the political interference that Toj and Nut had done, or the monarchy had done, through Shell charity American Archwell into Australia's policies. And I just thought, like, this, no one in the YouTube community could deny this or could hide this and would be in full support of this. This is something that they would seriously look at and encourage and support everyone to look at, because this is also what they're saying in America. It's not, I'm not, you know, interfering with their little project or their little money raiser. By this time, I wasn't monetized, and my whole channel's been suppressed. And I think I want to show you here. That was my initial Grift on the Sussex Express. That was my initial video. 33k views, 2.5k likes, and 665 comments. Now let me tell you what I've got my latest. And as well, my videos are usually blocked within the hour or 2 hours of airing them. So the algorithm doesn't work all that time. I have to have people resubscribing, unsubscribing and subscribing back just so they can get updates. It's shocking the amount of control that the British monarchy has over social media and YouTube. Or shall we say the crown. And my last video here, 998 views, 133 likes, 101 comments. You can see the huge difference there. And that's actually pretty good. Like, I'm doing pretty well at the moment. I've gone from like 7.4, I've got 7.4 or 6.4 followers to this. Yes, there's natural unfollowings, I get that, but there's also like a steady decline every day of like 10 followers a day. That's kind of, you know, that's not by anyone's, that's not man-made, if you get what I'm saying. So I think I just wanted to point out just, so at that time there was, you know, my whole channel was being suppressed, on top of finding out just how big suppressing the truth was about. And I realized just how much the YouTube community wasn't about the truth. It wasn't about helping you or helping me. And the majority of people were still polarized, were still so brainwashed into believing one side over the other. Either you're a Mexiteer, is it Mexiteer or a Sussex squad? I don't know. You're either one or the other. You're either working for Nut, which is ridiculous, honestly ridiculous. You're either working for Nut. Nut doesn't do social media campaigns and boozy stuff. That's just so weird. So weird. Actually, there was Yankee Wally mentioned in a Twitter post that Boozy has the same server as Kensington Palace. And I said, do get back to me on that. And she never did. But yeah, that there was a Kensington Palace server, and both, I think it was it the Sussex website or Archwell website and Boozy had the same server, and it was Kensington Palace. So anyway, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. There's so many things that I think about and talk about, and then I just lose my train of thought. But there's been a really, I think I realized just how difficult it was to get to the truth, and my bitterness and anger kind of faded away, and no one promoted the political interference. And I was shocked. And then one account did earlier this year, and then they took it down straight after. And then they blamed something about being harassed. Harassed because they put up a support post of me. Really? Okay. And then they, it's just been funny. This has been very controlled, very steered, and and everything I've done has had consequences in some way, shape, or form. And that's not my ego, that's not me talking, that's like me talking about just my content and my efforts in trying to bring the truth to this platform and to people. And the majority have been, really polarized and really brainwashed. And it's taken time to finally get there and to finally have these conversations. And this is why we're here now. Now, I think the main thing I want to talk about regarding that is I did a post last night when somebody asked, there's nothing we can do and stuff. And I did say, the point is just getting transparency, getting the honesty and getting the truth out there first, and then people can decide later what they want to do. And the main point is to have a community that embraces that and endorses the truth. That there is truth there, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, the truth is out there, and people can decide on their own for themselves what they wish to do with it. That is my goal. I've been, it's been depressing a lot of the time. It's been really sometimes psychologically devastating, just having to go through all this effort to be able to get the truth out, and then you get no responses and you get shunned, and all the while your channel's being completely controlled and suppressed where you can't even post about anything. Your comments are hidden on social media, your mentions are hidden. You don't ever get notified anymore. You don't even get responses to things. It can be really, really daunting and really exhausting, just in a psychological way. And I think I kept coming back to the idea that I didn't want to be controlled and I didn't want the truth to be shunned. If it was my choice, no matter what, that I would still continue and persevere and say the truth. And then whatever people do with it is not my responsibility. And I've got to let that go. And whatever followers that unfollow me, harass me, stalk me, report me, whatever happens there, I've got to just let go and be like, well, fuck you, fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to just be true to me, and I'm going to harness my own personal sovereignty over everything that's happening in the world and everything that's happening in my life. That I have worked too hard in my life to be me, to be free of being anyone else but me, to be conditioned to finally see the truth. And I'm not going to deny that truth, and I'm not going to deny myself any longer. And that has a lot to do with trying to get that across to you, trying to get that across to a lot of people, that you can choose. It's up to you at that point, but that the truth is out there, and you then have the ability to make that decision for yourself, whether you would like personal sovereignty or not. But this is really, this is a comment I want to kind of get across. This was inspired. This is actually not a lot of my wording. This was a post by a gentleman on Twitter talking about the man-made values that socially steer everything that's happening in the world at the moment, on media, on social media, by these controlled accounts, by these controlled mainstream media, by everything. And this includes also this whole con of the British royal family. There's values for us, there's rules that we have to abide by and comply, but those rules don't apply to them. And that's just evident and apparent with Savile, for Jimmy Savile being a palace confidant and having keys to the palace. Insane, just insane. And then when he passed, the fact that Prince Charles was in control of the complete and utter PR campaign that praised him and respected him and prevented the investigation from moving forward regarding him and his crimes until several months later. So so I'm just going to say this just so you maybe have a sit back and just close your eyes or just think about this and reflect on it. And I think I want to get this out there, even though I've put this on the community pages, because I don't want it to be just, forgotten and not thought about, because I don't think a lot of people talk about this. And I think it's really important. This is my essence. This is really why I'm here after that whole journey and realizations. So I'm just going to say my little piece here, inspired by the gentleman. I've forgotten who it is, but I'll come to it and mention them in the comment section. To endorse the social contract is to betray the fundamental principles of human freedom and dignity. It is to act as a prostitute sales agent, defense lawyer, and busybody enforcement officer for those who view humanity as a resource to be managed and controlled. Such a position disregards the innate capacity of individuals to govern themselves according to universal ethical principles, favouring instead a system of enslavement that benefits the few at the expense of the many. Supporting the social contract is not just misguided, it is deeply unethical and a cowardly stance. It denies the timeless and self-evident truths of natural law and aligns with an ideology of fascist domination that is fundamentally incompatible with the essence of what it means to be human. It prioritizes obedience to artificial systems over adherence to principles that ensure genuine harmony and justice. This is an unconscionable position, one that undermines the potential for a free and cooperative human existence. Everyone that should have the freedom to determine their own purpose in life. Everyone should have the freedom to determine their own purpose in life. When this freedom is denied, it means that someone else is imposing a purpose on them. Such imposition reduces individuals to mere instruments, tools, serving the interests and values chosen by those in power. If a select group, e.g. a ruling entity, dictates what values are, quote, universal, unquote, e.g. the man-made constructual values of a social contract, and enforces those values on others, they are asserting control over people's lives, making them subservient to the group's agenda. It's everyone's right to define their own goals, aspirations, and meaning in life. Personal sovereignty personal sovereignty rejects the idea that anyone else, be it a government, institution, or societal authority, has the right to impose a predetermined purpose on others. When people are forced to live according to externally defined purposes, their agency is taken away, stolen. They become tools for achieving the goals of those who set the rules, exactly like slaves who serve the will of their masters. By promoting the idea that individuals should be free to define their own purpose, one promotes a society based on voluntary cooperation amongst fellow humans, mutual respect, and the inherent worth of each person as an autonomous being. This is me speaking. I'm that person. That is why I carried on, and I have spoken the truth despite its consequences. Are you, and do you speak out against those that betray your personal sovereignty? I hope that this is a place where we can really start being honest with ourselves. And it comes back to the third point, which was, what can we do about it? What is there that can be done if we're completely helpless to what's going on before us, whether it be this British royal family con, whether it be the global order that already exists but is coming to light, whether it be, our governments, the WHO, whatever it is. I think the key to the answer is personal sovereignty, is finding your personal sovereignty and exerting it, and making sure that you have your own agency and that you speak for yourself. When that happens, I think it's an easy task to then just say no, to then just say, no, I don't believe it. Or, yep, this is all theatre. I'm not going to even bother with this. And it's a lot easier to see, just the clarity helps you see, especially also the self-agency and the self-empowerment you give back to yourself. It helps you see the truth in your own life. And I think things fall to the wayside. Things like what's happening before us don't particularly matter, and you just see life as it is, and you see what's important to you. And the rest you can just say yes or no to. And I think that is the point of there is something you can do, and that is just giving yourself that peace of mind and that clarity, and make your own decisions from there. And whatever you do, whatever your choices are or your choice is, that you have a community here that supports you, even though it's albeit a small one. I'll be the one that shows up, most definitely, irrespective of whoever else there is. There'll be a community here waiting for